With the story, I pick it up. At first, Nancy wanted very much to beat her cancer once again and was asking for help to do that, even though it seemed obvious to me that she was not doing well and probably was nearing the end of her life. It is not the healer's place to offer that observation, so I continued to work on her cancer and continued to try to help her heal all the different physical ailments that she had as a consequence of the cancer, and of course to help reduce her pain. She walked into my office one Friday afternoon after a few weeks after our first healing session, looking the worst I had seen her. She was clearly very weak. She was now jaundiced and was in such constant pain that she was using a morphine belt that injected a small amount of morphine into her every couple of minutes in order to keep her pain level tolerable. The disease had ravaged her body. She was gaunt, was clearly very weary, and the constant pain she lived in was etched on her face. She sat down and looked at me very earnestly and said in a quiet voice, "Patrick, I'm tired. I can't fight this anymore. It's over. I'm ready to die. But," she said hesitantly, "I am so scared because I don't know where I'm going after I die. I don't know what happens and I'm so scared. Can you help me? Can you help me find out where I go when I die?" Nancy's voice and eyes conveyed to me such a longing for help, such a depth of the fear of the unknown, and such a desperate plea that I was quite taken aback inside of myself. After more than 25 years as a therapist, I've had people ask me for help in many different ways. Directly, indirectly, loudly, quietly, pleading, crying, and wailing. But in all those years, I have never been so moved by the pure fear and vulnerability as I was that day by Nancy. Her plea to, "Please help me as my life comes to an end," moved me very, very deeply. Of course, I didn't know if I could help her in the specific way she was requesting, but in qigong, like the other two traditions that I had practiced, we're taught to be open to all possibilities of healing. I took a breath and settled into my heart. I felt a tremendous desire to help her well up in me, but I remembered immediately that the harmony of the universe, the unconditional love of the divine, is bigger than me. So I remained with my understanding that the universe wanted to help her, and all I had to do was be the conduit. I told her with the kindness that I was now feeling with my entire being, "Nancy, I will do everything I can. Let's go into the healing and see what happens." She seemed and sounded like a vulnerable child asking for the most profound help imaginable. My heart opened with love for her, opened to her open heart, opened in awe of what she was facing and with my desire to help her. She sat in the chair and closed her eyes. I went around and stood behind her, put my hands together in prayer, then felt moved to put my hands out to my sides like I had learned as a Christian, palms up. And I began to pray as I always do, asking for help. I asked to be guided and asked to be used in the best way possible to help Nancy find the answer she was looking for, to help her in a way that would help diminish her fear so she could die in peace. In my qigong healing, as in my own personal practice of qigong, I will sometimes ask Jesus for help, sometimes hummingbird, sometimes the ancestors, sometimes just the harmony of the universe. I can't remember whom I prayed to that day, and I really don't believe it matters. I just remember the longing in my prayer. It probably didn't sound much different than Nancy's plea to me. I was scared, felt vulnerable, and felt a tremendous desire to help her. What happened next has so profoundly changed my life that words feel totally inadequate to explain it. As I relaxed and sank into my prayer and opened up the healing energy, the sound of the choir that I experienced sometimes in my meditation, that beautiful sound that was always seemed so far away, That song came into my office so loudly that it seemed to shake the walls. I was flabbergasted by its beauty and how loud it was. I was sure people could hear it in the offices around me. It was absolutely the most beautiful sound that I had ever heard. Actually experienced is a better way to say it, because I didn't hear it with my ears. At least I don't think I did. I heard it in my bones. I heard it with the cells of my body. I heard it in my soul. I heard it with my whole being. It seemed to come from my left, up towards the top of the ceiling of my office, and I had a distinct sense it was some sort of road. I knew quickly and with great certainty that they were singing her home, and the road was the path for her to follow. I also knew who they were. They were the Christians, the heavenly choir, a host of archangels singing with joy. It was the ancestors from the native path, the grandmothers and grandfathers singing with excitement and helping her to the other side. And I knew from the Taoist tradition that it was the harmony of the universe. It was the sound of pure love calling her to join that love. I knew it was all of that, and I knew they had heard our prayer and that they were going to sing her home. I was so overwhelmed by the beauty and the power of what I was experiencing, so shocked as to what I was hearing and what I knew, that I dropped my hands and I came out of the experience. I was dumbfounded, shaking, my eyes flooded with tears of awe and utter amazement. I didn't know what was happening. I thought, what is this all about? Who am I to be having this experience? What do I do? But in the next moment, an image came to me unbidden. Master Lin was next to me. It felt like he was actually in the room, and he said very gently and lovingly, "Get out of the way." I understood immediately. It was the same thing I would have heard from a priest or a shaman. Get out of the way. This wasn't about me. I was the conduit. Say my prayers, open up, and get out of the way. It was between the spirit world and Nancy, and just do what I was there to do. So I went back into my stance behind her and raised my hands again. And there it was again, that beautiful, profound sound of singing voices, singing her home on the path off to my left. A light was there too, a holy, sacred light. This was also inexplicable because it was daylight and it really wasn't any brighter in my office. Yet there was some beautiful and holy light shining that filled everything. The choir just kept singing, holding that perfect pitch, that sound of perfect love. I took a deep breath and sank into my heart again and allowed myself to experience the great joy the sound and light brought to me. I stood there with tears coming down my cheeks for several minutes. I was trying to receive the shower of divine, perfect love, trying to figure out how to move and act normal in the midst of this mystical experience that I knew was meant for Nancy. I was finally able to walk around her like I usually did, moving my hands in the way we do to remove energy blocks and put energy back in, wanting to give her the sense that I was doing the typical healing, yet knowing that I wasn't doing anything, but trying to be open, knowing that something was happening that was way beyond my understanding. I felt like a drunken man pretending to be sober. I was glad her eyes were closed. I'm not sure how I looked, but I felt like every cell of my body was lit up, that for whatever reason, at that moment, I could hear the sound of love, felt that I was pure love, and felt light and joy shimmering out of my entire being. I spent about 15 minutes walking around her, moving my arms, praying that I would stay open, feeling blessed, in awe, and occasionally overwhelmed when I let myself think about what was going on. The sound and the light slowly subsided over 15 minutes. I brought the healing session to a conclusion by again going behind her and thanking the universe and whomever else I was praying to that day. I then sat down in front of her, as I always do, and I asked her to rub her hands together and massage her face to help her come out of the healing.